The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmersday, April 10th, 2023. On the show today, news, and yes, the whole Reedy Creek thing. Then in our main segment, Jim and I talk about the history of Let's Make a Deal and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at Walt Disney World. Let's get started by bringing in the man who asks why there's an antonym for antonym, but no synonym for synonym. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
It's going well, Len. And for those of you who don't know, synonym is a word that means the same as another word. I mean, for example, in the English language, the word begin, start, commence, and initiate are all synonyms of one another. Whereas if we went with stall, that would be obstruct, impede, hinder, hamper, block, interrupt, hold up, hold back, stand in the way of, frustrate. You get the sense I'm stalling here, Len?
Since we're turning this into a language corner, I heard something super interesting. When a word is both a noun and a verb, the accent is on different parts of the word. So think about the word record and the word record. If it's a noun, record, right? This is a record player. If I'm doing what we're doing now with the show, we are recording it, right? So the accent is on the different syllable. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, I did not know that. But once again, folks, I've learned something while we're doing the show. Hopefully you do the same. So
Please call us Mr. Language Person.
Mr. Language Person. So.
Shout out to Dave Barry. All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Jen Wiley, Hubert Yamada, Andrew Six, and Mark Andrada. And longtime subscribers Jay Feely, John Brock, David Irish, and Wayne C. Jim, these are the entrepreneurs buying up the harmonious barges as scrap metal to make their own Las Vegas-style water-based nighttime show over at Disney Springs. The show will feature water screens, fireworks, and Disney music, plus an epic pirate battle every night between the barges, the floating cars at Boathouse, and the volcano at Rainforest Cafe. Look for the show, working title Melodious, to debut this fall. True story.
Len, if this is not actually in the works, I guarantee you by 4 o'clock the day that...
There's someone at Disney going like this.
And sadly, that would work at Disney Springs.
Totally work. I was thinking about this. When I was writing this, I was like, why? What's the bad part of this idea? I don't get it. Like, what is not feasible here? Like, it's completely Why is there not, Jim, a nighttime show on the water at Disney Springs?
This is an idea. Well, again, think about the drone
They
show.
could charge more for hotel rooms at Saratoga Springs.
There we go.
All right, Jim, let's do the news. And folks, we've got plenty of news. The Disney Dish News is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Disney Dish Podcast. For a worry-free travel experience every time, book online at StorybookDestinations.com. All right, Jim, first big news. Disney announces the return of annual passes. Oh,
Wow.
April 13th for DVC members, April 20th for the general public. First of all, I'm super happy that everyone gets their annual passes again. But, Jim, I have to look at this and say it's clearly a sign that attendance is down at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard insiders say that total number of visitors is down about 25%. And this is a strong indication of that. So hopefully things will bounce back there.
Just so happy to hear this is finally happening.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people, especially DVC members, where it doesn't make sense to visit Walt Disney World if you can't get an annual pass. But I have to wonder too, Jim, how many DVC members have simply been selling or renting their points because it wasn't cost effective for them to buy passes, and now will this actually restrict the number of DVC rental deals that are available? Like, will the price of DVC rental points go up now because DVC members can now use their points because they've got annual passes? That's going to be an interesting side effect to watch out for.
Wow, I hadn't even thought of that part of the algebra. Okay, yeah.
All right. Other news, Jim. More good news. 2 Walt Disney World restaurants will be added to the Michelin Dining Guide for Florida when that new edition is launched May 11th. So earlier this week, Michelin said Toledo, tapas, steakhouse, and seafood, and Victoria and Albert's will be on the list, but they didn't say what kind of rating they'd get. All right, so everyone knows Michelin for their star ratings, right, Jim? Mm-hmm. Right, really good restaurants get 1, 2, or 3 stars. It's all very prestigious. There's exactly one restaurant on Walt Disney World property with a Michelin star, and that's, I believe it's Kappa at Four Seasons.
That sounds right.
The other 2 levels of recognition for the Michelin Guide, something called Bib Gourmand, which means good cooking and good value. There are currently none of those in Walt Disney World right now. And then they're just getting listed in the Michelin Guide itself is the first step for a lot of restaurants. So there are currently 5 of those. Ravello at the Four Seasons, California Grill, Citrico's, The Polite Pig, Downtown Disney, and Morimoto Asia.
Speaking of the Polite Pig, just this Sunday, as we were wrapping up the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser event, I actually made us go by the Polite Pig and do...
Oh, did you?
Well, again, since you were so enthusiastic about the vegetables there, we got the barbecued Brussels sprouts and... Trying to think of the other veggie we got, but it was literally, we did the 3 side dishes. In fact, got a burnt end chili, for our friend Nathan.
Oh, you went with Nate. Fantastic. Yeah. Burnt end chili's really good too, yeah.
Just wonderful staff there. Great bunch of people there.
And what'd you think of the food?
I enjoy it so much, not just for that it's fresh and great veggies, but let's be honest here. It's literally by the escalator, into the Lime Garage. It's just sort of, you don't have to really make a whole lot of effort to get to the Polite Pig.
I know, it's right there at the bottom. Yeah, it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's really good as well. All right. So, Jim, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Victoria and Albert's gets 2 stars from Michelin, and that Toledo gets a Bib Gourmand. That's my guess there. Also, I'm a little surprised about Toledo because I think Jaleo is better in every respect, and it's less expensive. So the only thing I can think of there is that Michelin hasn't made it over there yet. Also, if Citrico's and V&A both make the list for 2023, then 2 restaurants managed by Walt Disney World cast member Israel Perez in the past year will be recognized by Michelin. And I said for years that Israel by himself is worth 3 or 4 points in a dining survey. Jim, I don't know what Disney's paying this guy, but I'll bet that number's going up. So congratulations to Israel on that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Also, other news this week, Jim, Genie Plus sent new records for pricing this week, $35 per person per day, and still managed to sell out.
But realistically, this is Easter week, right?
It is. But also, Jim, we have fewer annual pass holders in the park than we will in a couple of weeks, right?
True. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think, people are asking me all week, what do you think the upper limit is for prices on Genie Plus? And it's got to be at least $45. Like, if you told me that over Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, we're going to see $45 Genie Plus, absolutely. And if you told me it was $50, I'd be like, yeah, I can totally see that as well.
I know people are willing to pay it. My concern is people going home and talking about
it, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why attendance is down 25%.
Yeah. So.
All right, Jim. The big news over the last week, though, is apparently something happened with the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
A tiny thing.
All right, let's work our way backwards here. Bob Iger said this week that Disney will invest $17 billion in Walt Disney World in the next 10 years. And so I was asked by news organizations to comment on this. And my first question was, well, what did they spend over the last 10 years for comparison? And nobody knew the answer, right? So Disney doesn't break down its domestic parks capital expenditures by park. But over the last 10 years, here's what they spent on Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and Disney Cruise Line. That's all sort of like parks together. So over the last 10 years, they've averaged about $2.1 billion in spending per year between Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and DCL. And DCL has either 1 or 2 cruise ships. I think Fantasy launched in 2012. They launched the Wish last year. So there's there's at least $1 billion in there. For that, but if you told me like of the $2.1 billion, if you told me 2/3 of that was Walt Disney World, I would totally believe that just because of the 6 theme parks that Disney has domestically. 2/3 of them are in Florida, right? So, broadly speaking, If you told me 2/3, 70% of that spending on CapEx over the last 10 years was in Walt Disney World, totally believe it. And that would work out to be about $1.4, $1.5 billion a year. And what did we get for that, Jim? What did we got over the last 10 years for an investment of $1.4 billion a year?
So realistically, we're talking 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
That's the tail end, at least, of New Fantasyland, right? That project, the major expansion of the kingdom.
Right. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the second half of New Fantasyland, Enchanted Tales with Belle, Be Our Guest restaurant, right? Yeah. We got Pandora.
Yeah.
We got Toy Story Land. We got Galaxy's Edge, which was a huge chunk of that.
Oh, God, yeah. I've heard figures as high as $650 million each for the two Star Wars themed lands on each coast. So
yeah, I mean, if you told me it was $1 billion, I would believe $1 billion too.
Okay.
Right? Okay. All right. We also got makeovers of some big rides. Frozen Ever After from Maelstrom, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway from Great Movie Ride, right?
Yep.
We also got 5 new-ish hotels. We got the Riviera, which took the place of part of Caribbean Beach. Grand Destino, which took part of Coronado Springs. Grand Floridian Villas, which was all new. Poly Villas, which took over part of the Poly and new construction. All the stuff at Wilderness Lodge. And the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Yeah, and forgive me for pointing this out, but a lot of what you just mentioned was DVC inventory.
It was. It's true, yeah.
Yeah. As our friend Mr. Schul says, no tree grows to the sky. I just wonder where exactly the ceiling is for DVC on property.
Well, don't forget, though, so things like the Riviera, they took existing hotel rooms and converted them over.
This is true.
Same thing with the Poly Villas. Same things with Copper Creek, right? Yeah. So, and Grand Destino Tower also took... Grand Destino Tower was not DVC, but it took existing rooms made more rooms out of it. So, plus, I mean, if you look at the 10-year expansion plan for Disney World, it does include 13,000 new hotel rooms. So, anyway, so the question is, right? If you told me that Disney spent around 1.4, 1.5 billion a year over the last 10 years, and we got those things, what is $17 billion over the next 10 years going to get us, right? So the first thing I thought of was, well, over 10 years, inflation is actually a thing you have to incorporate into your calculation. So let's assume that inflation, and you're all going to laugh here, let's assume that inflation is just going to be 4% over the next 10 years. Okay, so $17 billion over 10 years would have the spending power of $14 billion today because of inflation, like $14.2 billion. So with inflation, and, with how expensive Imagineering is for everything, my guess, Jim, is we should expect about the same, maybe slightly less, over the next 10 years than what we got over the last 10 years. And that means we should expect 3 new lands with 6 new rides, a couple of major ride redos, and 4-ish hotel conversions, expansions, maybe 1 completely new hotel.
Remember, we're finishing up Lighthouse Point, the second island for the cruise line. And also, I know they got the Global Dream for pennies.
And they're going to have to put $1 billion into that, right? Yeah.
That's it, exactly. And in fact, didn't we just learn that Disney cruise line is now going to begin sailing out of Singapore?
Singapore in 2025. Jim, I am on that first cruise.
Okay. Well, again, we're packing the big bag with air holes because I'm coming.
I am super looking forward to that. And, I've talked to Laurel about that. She's like, there's absolutely no way I'm going to Singapore to get on a boat with that many people. I'm like, that is exactly why I want to get on that boat. Yeah. Just for the spectacle of it all. So, I don't know how it's going to happen. But
I definitely want to see, again, given how much of the Global Dream was supposed to be casino, what Disney does with that space and with all those people.
Right. Yeah, I'm super excited to see it. So, so you figure they've got one more DCL ship besides the Global Dream, plus the Global Dream. That's $2 billion right there, right? But they had the Fantasy and they had the Wish. They had some other refurbs, so it's going to work out about the same in terms of DCL expenditures, right? Ish.
Okay.
Somewhere there, yeah. All right. So, but that's what I think. 3 new lands, 6 new rides, a couple of major ride redos. Tiana's is already built into the schedule. Plus, Jim, don't forget, in that $17 billion that Bob Iger has promised to spend, they already pushed $700 million of that from this year to the next fiscal year. Right, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, just this past Monday, we had the virtual shareholders meeting. And Iger literally said that Moana, The Way of Water, is the final phase of the redo or change enhancement of Epcot, as in it ends there?
So no play pavilion, no Spaceship Earth redo, no festival pavilion. Are we? When he said that, Jim, I'm like, are we ever going to get grass in the middle of Epcot again? Like, what? Are the walls permanent now? Is that it? Like, what? Like, And this is where I fault, my friends at the Wall Street Journal for not following up and asking the important questions like, are we going to take down these walls? Yeah. Anyway, Jim, all of this talk about investment was in response to news that came out last week when the new members of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board found out that they had, quote, lost control over everything other than to maintain the roads and maintain the infrastructure. But first, Jim, every show should begin with a round of self-congratulations. Thanks to National Public Radio, who mentioned on last Saturday's All Things Considered show, when talking about this whole thing, that the Disney Dish podcast was the only member of the public to go to the first of these meetings back in January. I try so hard. I DM Kai Ryssdal every day, Jim, just asking to be on the show, and it never happens. But to be mentioned by All Things Considered, close enough.
And I just want to point out here that your beloved Laurel refers to Kai Ryssdal as Dreamy Kai Ryssdal.
Dreamy Kai Ryssdal, exactly. Yeah. I have a Marketplace mug, but it's not mine. Laurel got it.
There we go.
Anyway, so back on February 8th, the old Reedy Creek Improvement District Board entered into a long-term contract with Walt Disney Parks and Resorts for the following things. Use and operation of the Disney Springs parking garages, labor agreements for things like emergency services, a set of restrictive covenants that vest virtually all of the new building approval process with Disney instead of the district, a licensing agreement for other utilities, power systems, and the like, and then agreement to jointly develop the comprehensive land plan and land development things that we talked about it on our earlier show. And let me point out, Jim, that at this February 8th meeting, there were members of the general public and the news media who attended this meeting. There were 4 reporters from WESH, 4 from WKMG, 2 from the Orlando Sentinel, 1 from WFTV, 1 from the Orlando Business Journal, and 1 from Telemundo, Jim. So everyone was well represented.
There you go. Okay.
I will note, Jim, that nobody from the governor's office nor any future board member showed up for this meeting. Okay. Let me also point out that these agreements are contracts, not laws or regulations. And because the legislature didn't want state taxpayers to inherit Disney's $1 billion in bond debt when they dissolved Reedy Creek, the legislation that dissolved the old Reedy Creek said that any contracts or obligations in place with RCID would be inherited by the new board. And this contract is part of that inheritance. And that means the new board can't pass new resolutions to void the agreement because one party to a contract can't change the contract unilaterally. It also changes the nature of most of the disputes from legislative disputes into contract law. And contract law is very well established, and it's specifically protected by Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Commerce Clause. Basically, it says that states can't pass laws impairing the obligation of contracts. And what we have now, Jim, is an obligation between the Central Florida Tourism District and Disney. All right. Of course, they're super reluctant to invalidate contracts, even ones that are one-sided. Essentially, the state would have to show one of 5 to 6 things. The contract asks, Reedy Creek or, the State Tourism Board to do something illegal. I don't think it does. Disney forced the Reedy Creek Improvement District under duress to agree to the contract. I don't think that happened. The contract terms are so one-sided that they, quote, shock the conscience. I don't think we reached that level. Reedy Creek didn't get a chance to negotiate the contract, but they did. Or that the Reedy Creek was mentally unfit to enter the contract. So none of those things are true. So I think the state, if they try to invalidate this agreement, faces a very, very uphill battle. But let's go through it real quick and talk about what's in the agreement. So first of all, the development agreement, which is the main part of this, mandates that Reedy Creek, or its successor, will provide the support necessary for Disney to do the work in its long-term development plan. That is, once this contract was signed, there's nothing that the new board can do to stop anything in the long-term development plan. It also commits the Reedy Creek Improvement District and its successors to specific capital improvement projects. And Jim, we're going to talk about a couple of these because I don't think anyone has pointed this out yet, but it actually puts the new board on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars in development. Okay. Another interesting thing about the agreement, it commits Reedy Creek to getting Disney's approval for any new work that it does. And this basically inverts the old approval process. So any construction work or any work that Reedy Creek does or the new board does has to meet the quality, architectural features, design, and general aesthetic appearance of what's in place now. And Disney gets to say whether that's true.
This is handcuffs on handcuffs.
It's beautiful. Reedy Creek can't use the Disney name, characters, or anything related to the parks for promotional material, so they can't sell T-shirts or postcards or anything like that. The thing that I love, and this is what the lawyers, everybody latched onto this part. I think it's kind of funny. The agreement lasts for 21 years after the death of the last living descendant of King Charles III, or if Disney doesn't own any property within 10 miles of Reedy Creek. So this is called the perpetuity clause in contract law. And every lawyer that texted me said, Disney got it right, but nobody ever gets this right when they put it into contracts, right? But Disney got it right. The second thing they said is, if you're a lawyer and you want to tell the other side's lawyers to go perform an impossible sex act on themselves.
There we go.
You insert something like this into the clause. Like, I've done this and you can't do anything about it, right? Yeah. But Jim, here's what I love. There's a couple of sections about this contract where if you really read it, you're like, oh, this is just genius. Okay. One of them is the severability clause, right? Okay. And we've heard of instances in the past where major U.S. legislation gets invalidated because somebody finds one thing wrong with it. So in a 200-page or 300-page law like the Affordable Care Act, right? There have been arguments made that like this one section is invalid, therefore the entire law is invalid.
There you go.
Right? And actually, the Affordable Care Act did not have a severability clause, which is one of its problems. So people put in this thing called severability, and basically what it says is, if any part of this law or agreement is declared invalid, here's what we do next. Okay. And Disney's is beautiful because it's a really well-written severability clause, and it says this: if any clause or provision of this declaration is illegal, invalid, or unenforceable under applicable present or future laws, the remainder of the document shall not be affected and shall continue in full force and effect. In lieu of each clause or provision of this declaration which is illegal, invalid, or unenforceable, there shall be added as part of this declaration a clause or provision as nearly identical as may be possible and as may be legal, valid, and enforceable. And that's brilliant because it says if something here is declared unenforceable, the next closest legal thing takes its place. So not only does it say that the document survives, but it survives and the intent survives.
Len, I have never seen such an artfully written bear trap in my life.
Yeah, everyone focused on the King Charles thing. I'm like, look at that severability clause. That is a thing of beauty. Yeah. All right, so a couple of other things. Prohibited uses. So the agreement binds Reedy Creek and its successors as to what they cannot build. So they can't build housing. They can't build other theme parks or entertainment venues. They also can't build anything over 4 stories tall, Jim. It's the usual stuff. Like, you can't build strip clubs. You can't build, like, mining, like copper mining is specifically prohibited, which you would expect, right?
The way this is written, I don't think they can go to Home Depot and buy a shed.
Exactly. Well, I likened it to a super restrictive HOA covenant.
Oh, God, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I live in Celebration. I am super familiar with this. Okay. It also binds Reedy Creek, as we said, to going along with Disney's development plan, the comprehensive long-term plan. And so that specifically says that over the next 10 years, Disney can add 14,000 hotel rooms, 150,000 square feet of office space, 1 million square feet of retail and restaurant space, 1 major theme park, and 2 minor theme parks. And now Reedy Creek is committed to not only to doing that, but it specifically says that Reedy Creek can't pass any future legislation or a resolution that prevents this from happening. So there's a moratoria clause, and it says this: no moratorium, ordinance, resolution, or other land development regulation or limitation on the rate, time, or sequencing of the development of the project shall apply to or govern the development of the project in accordance with the Master Development Program during this term. Which means that Reedy Creek can't pass something in the future that says, well, I know we agreed to this, but we're going to slow it down this way. Can't do it. And then there's a further assurances clause that says each of the parties agrees to do, execute, acknowledge, and deliver, or cause to be done, executed, acknowledged, and delivered. All such further acts and assurances shall be reasonably requested by the other party in order to carry out the intent of this agreement and give effect thereto. Which means Disney's saying, if we miss something here, you agree to do whatever legislative thing you need to do to make it happen. Like, if we missed anything, we're going to tell you about it, and you're going to have to do it. All right. The thing, though, Jim, that I don't think is getting enough attention, and I want to hear your part about your input on this. Have you looked at how much road work Reedy Creek is now committed to do? Okay. Let me put this in perspective. Over the next couple of years, Reedy Creek is committed to spending around $24 million a year in road work. Right, you're right, road maintenance, right? And you and I actually went over some of the new flyover stuff. Yeah. So they've been working on, they've been working on Floridian Way and some flyovers, right? $24 million a year to do all that stuff on average, right? Okay. Fiscal year 2022, 23, 24, $24 million a year on average. Okay. In fiscal years 25, 26, and 27, Reedy Creek is somehow committed to $250 million in road work, Jim. An increase of 500% per year in roads. No one's reporting on this, Jim. But my question is what is $250 million in road work? Okay, so they actually break this out, right, into projects. All right, a couple of things. One, they're going to spend $250 million to expand Western Way and Buena Vista Drive. My first question, Jim, is why? You're connecting 429 to basically the area around Coronado Springs.
It's Flamingo Court, or what is the name of
Flamingo Crossing.
Flamingo Crossing. Well, think about it. You and I were just standing at the edge of what used to be Crossroads, and all of that is gone. And those various fast foods, retail, all that has to go somewhere. And we're already seeing quite a bit of that finally popping up at Flamingo Crossing.
$250 million, Jim?
Well,
I mean, you're selling a lot of churros to make up for $250 million in road work, right?
That you are.
So I posed this to a couple of people, and they're like, well, a lot of cast members are coming in from 429. Maybe Disney wants to help with their commute. I'm like, the same Disney Corporation that laid off 28,000 people and cut off healthcare during a pandemic? They don't care about the commute of cast members. Okay. Let me tell you right now, they're not spending $250 million to shorten the drive of cast members. They're getting something for $250 million. What are they getting, though? I don't know. The other thing is they're spending around $60 million on Buena Vista Drive Interchange 5 by the Disney Springs corridor. And they're spending another $121 million on World Drive North.
If you look at how much time and effort has already been plowed into that section of World Drive, it's like, okay, what other issue needs to be addressed here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in two projects alone, the expansion of Western Way and then the realignment of Vista Way to connect to Buena Vista Drive, they're spending $300 million. Which $300 million is like 2/3 of the entire RCID road budget for the next 5 years. Why? What are they getting for that? And I don't know yet, but I think that's the next thing to investigate. All right, anyway. So all of this goes down. And then the state finds out about this at the end of February, and it becomes public in the last couple of weeks, right? So one of the new board members, Ron Perry, says this essentially makes Disney the government. The board loses, for practical purposes, the majority of its ability to do anything beyond maintain the roads and maintain basic infrastructure. And when I read that, Jim, my first question was, what, Ron, beyond basic roads and infrastructure, did you think the board was supposed to do? And we all know the answer, right? The board thought that they were going to withhold approval of Disney World to do certain things in order to change the movies that Disney makes. And that was never going to happen.
No,
right?
No. You mentioned the February 27th date. That's the day that Ron DeSantis signs the bill. And the very next day, February 28th, is when his book, The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival, goes on sale around the country. So they were distracted because this was largely about sign that bill so I have something to talk about when I go off on my book tour. And he got blindsided. He got played.
He didn't get blindsided, Jim. There were public announcements that this was going to happen. And this is what I tell people, right? So I tell people this all the time. You can get outsmarted. If you say, look, Disney's just got smarter lawyers than the state of Florida has, I would believe that, right? But the fact that nobody showed up for these meetings other than a couple members of the public and a bunch of reporters means that the other side got outworked. And I can forgive being outsmarted. Right, because there's always somebody smarter than you. But you get outworked, you got no one to blame but yourself.
No, that's it, exactly.
No one to blame but yourself.
Disney's response when the members of the board and governor began complaining about it is we did everything by Florida sunshine laws.
Florida sunshine laws, hey, we published them. Look, people came, right?
That's right.
In fact, I heard actually that the fact that, I went to one of the meetings was actually a thing look, members of the public came. They asked questions. We answered those questions in public. Anyone could have come, right? That was, so you're welcome, Disney. So the governor said, among other things, that the new agreement was illegal because the lack of consideration, the delegation of legislative authority to a private corporation, and the restriction of the board's ability to make legislative decisions rendered it invalid. But there is consideration, right? Remember, Jim, the district is named the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. Disney's committing to a decades-long master plan to spend tens of billions of dollars to increase tourism and tourism revenue in the district. That's what the district gets. More tourists and more tourist money. In return, Disney gets to ensure that the development that happens in the district complements the investments Disney's already made. It's pretty clear what both sides are getting. So I don't understand the consideration thing there at all. Likewise, Universal actually sits in its own district, and so does SeaWorld. So it's absolutely normal for private companies to sit in special districts. In fact, if you talk about the delegation of legislative authority to private corporation, the Wilton Drive Improvement District, which is in Broward County, whose charter is to improve Wilson Drive, has 7 board members. 6 of them own land or businesses in the district itself and have a say on the district. So you can't tell me that this is unique. Also, I've read and searched the agreement multiple times. I don't see anything that delegates legislative authority to Disney or restricts the ability of the board to make legislative decisions. But just in case that was an issue, Florida law specifically encourages this kind of agreement. So if you read Florida Statute 163.3171 subpart 4, it says, local governments may enter into agreements with each other and with a landowner, developer, or government agency as may be necessary or desirable to effectuate the provisions and purposes of the various Florida statutes for special districts. It's the legislature's intent that joint agreements entered into under the authority of this section be liberally, broadly, and flexibly construed to facilitate intergovernmental cooperation between cities and counties and to encourage planning in advance of what, Jim? Jurisdictional changes. Which is saying, hey, if you think things are going to change, you should enter into agreements to make sure that things get developed. I'm reading this, I'm like, this is exactly what the law says they should do.
Okay. Looping back to the shareholders meeting and Bob Iger's comments at the start of that, Ron DeSantis has been hitting there's a new sheriff in town button pretty hard the latter part of this winter. And the thing is that, everyone was talking about Bob Iger's comments at the shareholders meeting, where Bob is famous for being able to read the room. And what he said, we came here when this was a swamp and built this.
Yeah.
And $17 billion is going to be invested in the state. And, how many Disney employees work in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They also committed to adding 13,000 new employees.
There we go. And as suave and as smooth as Bob was, he wasn't also afraid to sort of lay down a cudgel to the effect of, we view what went on here as retaliation and anti-business.
Oh, yeah, no, he was pretty clear about it.
Yeah, and so it's one of these things from Governor DeSantis' side of the fence. What do you do now? I mean, the two bad choices that are currently in front of Ron DeSantis, to the effect of, if you opt to, in fact, retaliate, you were spending Florida's money on attorneys because your feelings were hurt and you were embarrassed.
Yeah. So they hired 4 law firms that billed something like $800 an hour.
Yeah. And
I mean, that adds up.
Yeah, that it does. But on the other hand, if you opt to do nothing and you pursue the Republican nomination, at some point you are going to have to stand on stage with somebody else.
And someone's going to say, Mickey Mouse beat you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is...
And you were too lazy to go to the meeting where it happened. That's going to be the thing. Yeah, so I don't expect that to happen. I expect that there'll be another round of this.
Yeah.
So
I don't want you to have to name names, but you got the heads up to attend this meeting.
The person who gave me the heads up says, as soon as I said that, he's like, you're going to get subpoenaed by this DeSantis investigation board, right? I'm like, yeah, he's like, let me just say for the record. And then he in the text, released a string of expletives about the governor. And I'm like, and so I was like, so what you're saying here is, and I repeated back to him what he said, just because we know it's going to get read into a court record at some point. And then he's like, yes, I mean this. And I was like, hey, I noticed you didn't put a comma between these two words. Did you mean to put a comma? I will say this, though. This is funny. Going back to Bob Iger's point, I was doing a Zoom interview with with a TV station in Florida, and one of the questions that they asked was, if Disney wasn't in Central Florida, what would Central Florida look like? And I was like, Troy, let me just be clear here. You would be an anchor in Ann Arbor, and I'd be somewhere in Ohio. Like, none of us would be here. This TV station wouldn't be here. The viewers wouldn't be here. None of this would be happening right now.
Nancy and I actually went over. Our friend Angela was house sitting in Lake Nona, so we got over there. And
Oh, you went over to Nona, yeah.
And what was fascinating was Lake Nona, as developed as it is, and it gives off very much a celebration vibe, still has great swaths of open property where there are cattle grazing. So it was one of these things where it's like, it was so strange to get the future and the past of Central Florida side by side.
All in one.
I mean, just, that again, Central Florida for how many years was just put the cattle out and graze and we'll collect them in a couple of months to, for beef or whatever. So,
which is funny because like Lake Nona from Celebration where I live is 19 minutes away. And Celebration is, the centrally planned community, super restrictive HOA covenants and stuff like that. 19 minutes away are cows.
There you go.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yep.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim tells us about the history of Let's Make a Deal and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at Walt Disney World.
This episode is sponsored by Better Sleep. How many times have you been lying in bed and had this conversation with yourself? If I go to sleep now, I can get at least 4 hours of rest. 3 hours. Okay, 2 hours. Let's face it, sometimes it's just hard to turn your brain off. You have all these thoughts racing through your head, which then prevent you from getting the rest that you really need. And boy, when that happens, you pay for it the next morning. I'm talking about brain fog, not to mention difficulty concentrating. Did I mention the part about brain fog already? I forget. If this is something you've been experiencing, well, why not try one of the most positively reviewed apps in the history of the Apple Store? And that is Better Sleep. With the Better Sleep app, you can access a range of smart features that can then help you sleep faster, deeper, and for longer. These features include over 200 soothing sounds, Likewise, breathing exercises and bedtime stories. Me personally, I find that listening to Better Sleep's selection of binaural beats really helps me out when I've got too much going on upstairs. Look, we all know that high-quality sleep is vital to mental well-being and physical health. So why not try the award-winning app that's been downloaded over 55 million times? Better Sleep is backed by sleep experts and science, and it's been named Apple's App of the Day over 65 times now. Look, when you sleep better, you feel better. Improve your quality of life in as little as 1 week. Download Better Sleep from your App Store or Google Play. That's Better Sleep on the App Store or Google Play. We thank them for sponsoring today's show. It's spring cleaning time, people. That time of year when you're supposed to clear away all of that clutter that somehow accumulated over the winter months. And no, I'm not talking about those Super Mario Brother movie Happy Meal toys that you acquired back in December and January. That still makes no sense to me, by the way. Why did McDonald's offer those Happy Meal toys back then when the Super Mario Brothers movie wouldn't even arrive in theaters till early April? No, what I'm talking about today is virtual clutter. Like, for example, those online subscriptions that once upon a time you signed up for and then somehow forgot. Care to guess how much that may be costing you on a monthly basis? Most Americans think that they're only spending around $80 a month on subscriptions, when the actual total is a lot closer to $200 a month. And if you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month on subscriptions, maybe it's time you signed up for Rocket Money. Rocket Money is this personal finance app that finds and then cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and then helps you lower your bills, all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you, and if there's any that you don't want to pay for anymore, just hit cancel and Rocket Money will cancel them for you. It's that easy. Rocket Money also helps you manage all your finances in one place and automatically categorizes your expenses so you can easily track your budget in real time and also get alerted if anything looks off. This actually happened to Nancy and myself when we were down in Florida this past month. Rocket Money made us aware of a fluky financial situation, and using this app, while we were on the road, mind you, just using our phones, we were able to speedily get our arms around that situation. And did I mention that over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 every year? So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/DisneyDish. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/DisneyDish. We thank them for sponsoring today's episode.
Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
We have an anniversary of sorts coming up, right? April 10th, right?
We do. 22 years ago today, a fleet of armored cars were rolling through the streets of Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Michael Eisner was getting paid?
Well, I went the other way with it. You know, the defector.
Okay, go ahead.
No, they weren't collecting those $35 Lightning Lane fees. All right, you know.
Okay, all right,
during
close.
our Easter week, but rather these armored cars were carrying Regis Philbin and Mickey Mouse, who were driving to the site of that theme park's newest attraction. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Play It. This was the Imagineers attempting to cash in on a worldwide phenomenon. That game show had originally launched in the UK 3 years earlier, and by 1999, ABC had acquired the broadcast rights. August of that same year, sort of as a trial balloon, dead end of summer, they did a 2-week run of this game show in primetime with Philbin, who at that point was hosting the Live with Regis and Kelly daytime talk show. And Who Wants to Be a Millionaire scored so high in the ratings that ABC brought it back in primetime just 3 months later, and it did so well during the crucial November 1999 sweeps period. And starting in 2000, Disney on Television Network began airing episodes of Millionaire 3, 4, sometimes 5 nights a week, Len?
Oh yeah, you couldn't avoid Millionaire.
Oh, no,
like
no.
it was on like every time. Did you tell the story? Okay, so here's my analogy, right? Do you remember when BET first came on the air?
Yeah.
Okay, I loved BET when it came on the air because there was nothing else like it.
Yep.
And and one of the hosts of BET was Donnie Simpson.
Oh yeah.
And Donnie Simpson was on that damn channel. Honestly, God, this was me. I was young back then. I honestly thought he owned the station. And that he lived in the station and did, because like he would be there in the morning as I was getting ready for school.
Yep.
Like, and he would be like, all right, here's what's going to happen today. And then at the end of the night, like 11 p.m., he's showing Houdini videos right when I go to bed.
Yep.
And I wake up in the morning and he's there again. I'm like, this is like that. Regis Philbin was on ABC all the time. Also, shout out to Donnie Simpson.
What I pictured is literally there was a cot next to the camera and they would just shake him. It's like, Regis.
Yeah, exactly. Regis,
Donnie,
it's
get
time.
out. We're back on the air. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, anyway, given that we're talking about the Walt Disney Company here, which when it had a hit on television, and remember, folks, this is the company that, Davy Crockett, Zorro, even Baby Grogu from the Mandalorian, immediately looks for new ways to cash in this phenomenon. So the question again, what do we do with
synergy?
Yeah. What do we do with Millionaire in the parks? Any way we can turn this hit game show into something that guests can do at, say, Hollywood Studios or out at California Adventure. And Imagineers said, sure, we'll just do what we did with Let's Make a Deal at the studios back in 1990. Now, did you ever get to do Let's Make a Deal at Disney MGM?
No, I don't even remember this, Jim.
This was an attraction that was presented several times daily in the old Soundstage 1, starting in mid-1990 through January of 91.
I was going to say, none of this sounds familiar.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, remember, this was also during the time when MGM was supposed to be a working studio, and the idea that guests would take the backstage tour and look in through that glassed-in corridor at movies being shot or TV being produced. And it opens in May of 1989, and Disney learns the hard way that there's not a lot of film and television that's willing to fly down to Florida. And even though these are brand new state-of-the-art studios, and to be honest, Disney did pivot to the Disney Channel because each of the various Disney divisions is its own profit center. It wasn't a question of, okay, Disney MGM will cut Disney Channel a break on the price. It's like, no,
we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you retail rates.
There we go. That's
how our business unit.
That's it exactly.
I get the fact that they're I get the appeal of sound stages in Florida. What Disney missed was that the talent lives in LA and New York.
They do.
And no one in LA or New York wants to live in Central Florida for 6 months out of the year.
No. This is why, for example, if you think about it, you only had a handful of Disney Channel shows. The MMC, the New Mickey Mouse Club, Adventures of Wonderland, and Storytime with Belle. That's basically all that was shot at MGM. So as 89 is fading into 1990, the executives in charge of Disney World Resort Theme Park are really scrambling. They're looking for any movie or TV show that's willing to, as you mentioned, to come down to Florida to shoot. Now, where this gets interesting is the syndicated version of Wheel of Fortune, hosted by Pat Sajak and Vanna White. And they have been doing this show together since 1981. He's been the host of that game show for 41 years, which is impressive, amazing. Except that Vanna's been doing it for 46.
Really? She's been doing that job for 46 years.
46 years. And
that's amazing.
More to the point, somebody needs to find the portrait of Dorian Gray. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Yeah, because she still looks the same.
Yeah, that's a little scary. But okay, so anyway, Wheel of Fortune had shot 10 episodes at MGM. 1989 had already announced plans to return in 1990. And guests coming to Walt Disney World to the studios really enjoyed sitting on a taping of Wheel of Fortune. So it made the folks at MGM think, okay, let's see if there's another TV game show that might be willing to be produced at our studios. And it turns out, in the same window of time, people are talking about reviving Let's Make a Deal. It had debuted on NBC December of 1963. After 5 years, it moved from the Peacock Network over to ABC. And then from 1968, it ran another 8 years as part of ABC's weekday morning lineup.
Let's Make a Deal is 60 years old?
If you can believe it. I mean, isn't it Wayne Brady right now who's actually hosting the new revival of the show? Yeah, I mean,
but he channels Monty Hall before every show, right? He goes into a trance. Yeah, okay, all right. just so we're clear.
Thank you for mentioning Monty Hall, who, by the way, during his run of the show, he was the MC of 4,500 half-hour-long episodes of this game show in the 60s and the 70s. And it had been so popular with TV viewers and had such strong brand recognition that by 89, there had already been 2 earlier attempts to revive the show, one in 81 and a second in 84.
But if you think about modern game shows, a lot of them are variations of the Let's Make a Deal thing. What's the one with the suitcases? I apologize, I don't watch network TV. What's the one with the suitcases?
That one is not ringing a bell. Again, a lot of the, a lot of the shows that have name recognition have been reinvented. In fact, doesn't Jay Leno do a version of the Groucho Marx "I've Got a Secret" or that? Yeah, I mean,
I believe it. Yeah.
Anyway, back to Hall. When they announced in January of 1990 they were going to a third attempt to revive the show, Hall made it very clear. Look, I'm not going to serve as the host of this version. I'm going to be a producer. He goes on to say, I'm looking for new fields to conquer, and I'm committed to finding just the right new host for the show. And Disney learns this revival's in the works, approaches Hall. By February of 1990, a deal has been struck. Game show will begin shooting in Florida in June of that same year, and typically will shoot 2 shows a day, several times a week, which now brings us to what Disney MGM would do with this 1990 revival of Let's Make a Deal when the show wasn't actually shooting.
So they're going to tape 2 shows a day when they're shooting. How many people fit into each show?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because Disney decided, because they wanted this game show to be an attraction, they went into Soundstage 1 and created a space where 800 people could sit and watch the show at any one time.
Okay, so 1,600 a day for an attraction is still kind of low. Okay, all right.
But here's the problem, Len. The original show, as it aired on ABC and NBC in the 60s and the 70s, had at tops 200 people at a time. And in fact, what was interesting is that there was a floor section of about 60 or 80 people, the ones who dressed in crazy costumes that Monty would interact with. And the rest of the audience sat up at a second level and brought a certain amount of energy to the room. But it was really kind of an intimate space. Whereas what Disney decided to do, because this was going to be an attraction, they built a 2-level set inside of the soundstage space. Which, you think about it, you have to control an audience of 800 people. You have to deal with an 800, or a 2-level set. And what does Monty Hall do? He hires Bob Hilton, who is this handsome, affable young man who has literally no experience when it comes to game show and just basically tosses him in the deep end. And remember, this is also being shot at Disney MGM, and Disney wants to really push the Disney connection. So they are regularly making Disney costume characters available to introduce showcases or roll props out on stage or.
Oh, really? So here's Goofy with the
exactly.
What's behind door number 1 or whatever.
And think if you're a Bob Hilton, a brand new guy to television, and you have your giant set and 800 people and Disney characters upstaging you left and right. It was a disaster. The show starts shooting in early June of 1990, begins airing on NBC in mid-July, and the ratings immediately tank. The people look in because, it's a new Let's Make a Deal, but they're just not connecting with the host. And Monty Hall, who was looking forward to retiring and just staying at home and basically cashing the checks, was now faced with this horrible situation where it's like the host isn't working and we need an experienced person. And he literally had to, as the producer of the show, fire Bob Hilton and then step in as the host of the show.
Oh, really? Monty Hall went back to work?
Yeah, he went back to work. But by then the audience had already decided that they'd sampled the show. They thought, this isn't the Let's Make a Deal I know from my childhood or that sort of thing. And eventually the ratings got so low by early January of 1991, NBC pulls it off of its weekday morning schedule and actually replaces it with a reality show that shows trials around the country. And now Disney is left with a huge set inside of Soundstage 1 that they now have to tear out and throw away. So, okay, we now pivot back to talking about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And the Imagineers painfully remember the lessons learned from Let's Make a Deal. So it's like, okay, we're not going to make that mistake again. Yet, first of all, what we build now, by the way, in Soundstage 2 and 3 will be a much more intimate experience. By the way, that's the other thing I think we need to point out here is that on the days that Let's Make a Deal was dark, when it wasn't actually shooting production, Disney would run as many as 6 different faux performances of Let's Make a Deal. They'd fill the audience, and they'd have cast members sort of sitting in for Bob Hilton and Monty Hall. And they'd give away, Disney plush or T-shirts or that sort of thing. And it was a fun experience. So the experience that Disney had from doing Let's Make a Deal, they then applied to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It. But at the same time, they made the set as identical as they could to the television show.
Did you ever see the show?
I didn't manage to. Did you?
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Okay,
yeah.
And?
It wasn't exactly like taping a TV show. Because if you've ever been to a taping of a real TV show, there are a couple of...
Yeah.
A couple of things that are vastly different. One is it's really, really cold in a regular TV studio because of all the lights and all the equipment and the heat that they generate. So if you go to the Colbert Show in the summer, bring a jacket because it's cold.
They used to talk about when Letterman did the shows in the old Ed Sullivan Theater. You could hang meat in there.
Yeah, it's that cold. And then the second thing is you spend a lot of time sitting around waiting for the show to start, where people encourage you to laugh and be boisterous. And there's a little bit of that in the Disney version in the theme park show, but not as much as in real life, where there's someone there just encouraging you to be as loud and as enthusiastic as possible.
Yeah, and also let's talk about the key difference between the TV show and the one in the parks, because you weren't playing for money, you were playing for points.
Right.
If you got through the first couple of sets of questions and you finally got to the $1,000 1,000-point level, well, at that point you got the Who Wants to Be a Billionaire Play It baseball cap. At the 32,000-point level, you were awarded the polo shirt, and I think also they threw in and again, this really dates this Disney attraction, but you got a copy of the CD-ROM game, Len.
So I guess laser discs were already out by then. Okay, all right.
And finally, if you made it to the $1 million level, you were awarded an I Am a Million Point winner black leather jacket. And you were also gifted a trip to New York to see a taping of the actual Who Wants to Be a Millionaire TV show. And what was kind of interesting, because the cruise line was also getting going in the same window of time, they'd alternate sometimes. That there were times when, no, we're not going to send you to New York, but we are giving you a 3-day voyage on the Disney Cruise Line. So
I was going to say, why didn't they use that to cross-promote DCL? Yeah, that makes total sense.
So that opens, as we mentioned, April 7th of 2021, and is so popular at MGM that a second version of this attraction is then fast-tracked for Disney's California Adventure Park. In fact, a brand-new building, Soundstage 17, is hurriedly thrown together in the Hollywood Studios backlot section at the theme park.
Right. Yeah, we just saw this. Yeah.
But that's done summer of 2001. And the attraction actually opens on September 14th of that year, just 3 days after 9/11.
Yeah. To
further trip up the momentum of this attraction, by now, ABC has effectively killed the Golden Goose.
They're showing it 3, 4, 5 nights a week. Everyone gets tired of it pretty fast.
That's it, exactly. So the audience is wandering away, and then June of 2002, just 9 months or thereabouts, they pulled it off the primetime schedule entirely. Now, mind you, September of that same year, 2002. The syndicated version debuts only with Meredith Vieira as the host rather than Regis Philbin. But it's not the white-hot phenomenon that it once was.
No, because it's daytime, it's syndicated.
Yeah,
it's not the same thing.
And so the attendance levels begin to droop on both the East Coast and the West Coast. And by August of 2004, the California Adventure, it throws in the towel. They shut their version of Millionaire Play It and Soundstage 17 is a variety of different things. It was the Olaf Snowfest, and more recently it's the Superstore featuring Avengers Campus, which means that Soundstage 17 is where you go to buy MCU stuff if the lines are too long inside of Avengers Campus. Whereas in Florida, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It hung in for 2 years longer. It shuttered August 2006 so that Sound Stages 2 and 3 could eventually become Toy Story Mania, which opens 21 months later in May of 2008. And you attended a couple of the presentations of...
Yeah, I never made it into the chair, though.
Okay. But do you remember the part of the show where instead of phone a friend, how they handled...
It was some random person walking by outside.
It was. It
like
was
on the
literally
way to
called...
ABC Commissary or something.
Yeah, phone a complete stranger. There was a cast member outside the building who, if you needed help, the phone would ring and they would turn to whoever was walking by. You, come here, talk to this phone.
That was kind of funny.
That was kind of funny. But they even went further with the gag when Disney Hollywood Studios would do their Star Wars weekends. So, that was when, if you attended a taping of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Play It Then, it went from phone a complete stranger to ask the Jedi Council.
Right, yeah.
So, personally, if it was the one from Phantom Menace, I would love to have had Samuel L. Jackson, provide me with some help on a question. We have to have some listeners who actually did make it into the seat, Len, and I have to ask how many of them still have their, baseball cap, polo shirt, or if they're really, really lucky, their leather jacket. So
I think we have a couple of listeners who actually won.
Wow.
The 1,000,000-point prize.
Okay.
Honor. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recall getting emails from people who were like, oh, yeah, I won that when it was in the parks.
All right, I want to hear that story. We'll
hear the stories then. All right, that's fantastic. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show and Jim Hill Media by subscribing over at disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes. Jim and I just recorded a couple of shows in Walt Disney World where we walked around the Disney Springs area and the walkway between the TTC and the Grand Floridian. And by the way, Jim, did you notice, I didn't mention in our news segment, but did you see that Disney announced today that the walkway between Shades of Green and the Grand Floridian is now closed permanently? We were just there, literally this last weekend.
Wow, oh, man. I wish we'd known that. I mean, mind you, if you walked over there, we probably would have been taken out by official military sentries, but,
Yeah, but,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so folks, if you want to hear those stories or other things that have never appeared on iTunes, subscribe over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who'll be guest singing on Seasons with the group Rain, Light, Fade as part of the Soundgarden Chris Cornell Tribute Show this coming April 29th, 2023 at The High Dive on North 36th Street in beautiful downtown Seattle, Washington. While Aaron's doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.